Hello, everybody, and welcome to Called Up the Prospects podcast, a very special episode the day after the Olympics is over. I am Chris Peters, joined as always by Cam Robinson of Elite Prospects. Cam, how you doing today? Everything okay?
I'm doing well. I just scarfed down my breakfast, so hopefully I don't have anything in my teeth here as we race out on an early Monday morning record. The sun is shining. The snow is melted outside. The Olympics are over. I'm just going to pretend that they never happened, I guess, at this point. And we can just move on, right? We don't have to even talk about it today.
Yeah, so sorry about that, but we are definitely talking about it today. We are not only talking about it, we're going to talk about it in a semi detail. I mean, obviously we have a different bent as a prospects podcast. We're not going to get into all the different things. All of this has already been hashed out, but I think there's a lot of things that we can take away from this Olympics, and a lot of different things that we learned, not just about the results, but I think also where hockey's going, what's happening. And I think that's a really cool thing too, is that we are incredibly lucky to exist in a time where we got to see those games happen. Because that was some of the most high level hockey. And so if the NHL and the Stanley Cup playoffs and all that is at one level, and we just amped it up another level in the Olympics, which is, basically, I think Mike Sullivan said it was hockey on steroids, which, tortured metaphor there, but tortured thing, but let's not call it that phrase. Whatever I'm trying to say, let's not use that. But either way, this was outstanding. So USA wins its first gold medal since 1980. 46-year drought is over. First best on best win for USA in the Olympics, and also the first gold medal won outside of the United States. Both 1960 and 1980 were in the United States. So now that's their first medal overseas. It's a double gold for the USA because the women also won in similarly dramatic fashion. So in the end, hockey is hockey. Games go those ways, Cam. I think in both situations, Canada probably felt they should have had better results, and yet they didn't. And the hockey happened. So real quick, one thing I wanted to point out. So you mentioned it too. All world performance from Connor Hellebuyck. This was probably the best goalie performance of my lifetime. USA has never won a gold medal without their goalie standing on their head. Jack McCartan in 60, Jim Craig in 80, Mike Richter in 96. They almost won gold in 2010 when Ryan Miller was the best goalie of that tournament.
Yeah.
Connor Hellebuyck, 956 save percentage, 956 save percentage is what he finished with. But my goodness, I mean, it all came down to really the one save, the save on Devon Toews. But this is a guy that did not take a traditional path developmentally. Goalies take longer, big guys take longer, all that stuff. But now here he is as a Hart Trophy winning goalie, a Vezina winning goalie, and now an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, let's just talk real quick about, I'm sorry to do this to you, Mr. Canada, but let's talk about the insanity of Connor Hellebuyck.
Well, we talked about it on this show. I talked about it in other shows. I mean, it's like obviously the Americans had a huge advantage in net, and it was kind of like, can Jordan Binnington just play like up to a near level that he did, on that cup run with St. Louis and at the Four Nations last year, and that's probably good enough. But having Hellebuyck, Swayman, Ottinger, it's like three legit goalies that you would definitely want in your crease ahead of a guy like Jordan Binnington, but Hellebuyck on a different level. And the interesting thing too is that, like, has anyone ever erased kind of a reputation of not being a big game goaltender as quickly as Connor Hellebuyck just did, right? Like that has to be erased now. That's over. And I'm sorry, Winnipeg Jets fans, like you're probably being like, where was that for us? But he showed up in a big way in the entire tournament. And like, their PK, did it end up being perfect? I think it ended up being perfect for the tournament, right?
100% like, PK.
Insane. Insane, right? And so guess who your best penalty killer is? Right? Your goaltender is your best penalty killer. And so like that's just another feather in his cap, right? So it's like it was tremendous. I mean, Devon Toews, that save is just nuts. That's got to get in the back of the net, and somehow he keeps it out. And then he got fortunate too. I think, MacKinnon missing the wide open cage. There was a few shots where it's like they just kind of plastered right at him, but he was incredible. I think full marks to him, full marks to the Americans, even though they were outplayed in that gold medal game. It's like at the end of the day, You capitalize when it's time to capitalize. And I think that the Canadians, that they were, especially in overtime, and I think maybe even throughout the game too, is like without Crosby, there was a little bit of hero hockey going on, right? They were trying to go and do it
Mhm.
themselves. We saw Mitch Marner score that overtime winner a couple days earlier where he shouldn't have, but he somehow managed to break through and get that shot off that caught Dostal on the backhand. And everyone was just trying to do that in overtime too. And it's like, that's not how you win. That's not how they do it in the NHL. And you saw the play that made the got gold for the Americans is they moved the puck, right? They attacked down low, they moved
Yes.
the puck out front, bang, right back of the net. So yeah, kudos. They
Yeah.
they earned it. They earned it, and Hellebuyck definitely earned it.
They did, and yeah, I mean, in the end, like, yeah, it's, close doesn't cut it, right? Like, whoever the results is really the only thing that matters in the end. And I
Yep.
know, like, Nathan McKinnon's quote kind of got taken out of context by a lot of people. Yes, I would say if 9 times out of 10, Canada probably wins that game, but they didn't that time. And so
Right.
it's a really intriguing. Jack Hughes scores the game winner. He's, Team USA's youngest player. He is, biggest, he was one of the biggest stars that USA Hockey had created, a number one draft pick, a kid who
Mm-hmm.
came through the NTDP, set the career or the single season scoring record there. Did a lot of different things. He scores the game winner in dramatic fashion. That was a perfectly placed shot, by the way. Also, there were two things that happened before that goal that I think is actually, so McDavid goes one-on-one with Jack Hughes, in the D zone. Jack slows him
Yep.
down enough. He didn't stop him, but he slowed him down enough. Puck goes the other side. Then it's a 50-50 puck between Cale Makar and Jack Hughes. If Cale Makar wins that puck, the game's probably over the other way. He doesn't. Jack Hughes does. Then Zach Werenski makes the play at the other end, shoulders MacKinnon off the puck, which is hard to do because Nathan MacKinnon is a bulldog. Got him off the puck, sent it over. You've got MacKinnon, Makar, McDavid on the ice. Jack Hughes is the one who ends up scoring the goal. Pretty incredible moment. And also credit to Binnington too, who did play well. Like, in that game, he
Yeah.
made that
You're
save
not
on
going to
Quinn
hang
Hughes
that
in
on him.
overtime. What's that? No, yeah.
I
Yeah.
said,
I
yeah,
mean,
you're
like,
not going to hang. You're not going to hang that on Binnington for sure. But
yeah, not
and
at
like,
all. Not at all. But
and it's
yeah,
interesting too because like you described the plays that happened that created this that ended up being the winner, and it's like I saw the exact same thing, but from a Canadian vantage point,
right.
McDavid, you know, you can peel back, you can find soft ice, you can let that play develop rather than just going 50-50 there with Hughes and not making the play. And then Makar, like it seemed like he hesitated a little bit on that pinch. And it's
Right.
like I didn't like the pinch. I didn't like the pinch at all. And then if you watch it from the vantage point up high, like then two more things happen there too. MacKinnon being the last man back on a 3-on-1, he had an opportunity to just whack that puck. Like he
Right.
got to that puck first and he could have just hammered it off the boards. It might not even got out of the zone, but it would have given enough time for McDavid and Makar to get back. But if you look at it from the top, somebody unplugged Makar's joystick. Like
I know.
he just and Jack was his guy. And he just
Yeah.
floated back. No pump at all. Are you kidding me? 3-1 OT
Yeah.
gold medal game. Like you are not busting your butt back to do anything to dive and get in front of something. That one killed me. I had some
Yeah.
beef with Makar all tournament. I thought him and Toews were their worst defensive pair in that gold medal game. Yeah, he scored the goal. Obviously, that was clutch. But I mean, Quinn Hughes outplayed him all tournament. Like
Yeah.
you put Quinn Hughes in that Four Nations, and they might have back-to-back championships here too. I think is
Right.
fairly
Yeah,
fairly reasonable to
and
say
Charlie
Hughes
McAvoy
was
for
the
that
better D,
matter.
and Charlie Mack.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely right.
And
So,
the tournament directorate award winner was Quinn Hughes. The tournament directorate award winner for goalies was Hellebuyck. The forward was
yeah,
McDavid, and McDavid was MVP. Those, and
yeah,
just so everybody knows, those decisions get made at the first intermission of the gold
yeah,
medal game. So there's no accounting, or I guess they moved it to second intermission now, but there's no accounting for what happened. Like Connor Hellebuck's the MVP of the tournament. Like,
yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, I think you can say, yeah, McDavid had the most points, but did he impact Canada's whole, he pointed up, but like it
He
never
pointed
felt
up.
like we ever got the full Connor McDavid experience in this tournament, did we?
I mean, there was moments, there were games like you could tell, like right from puck drop in game one there, where he just like bulldozed a guy and it was like, oh, McDavid's coming to play. And like, he's just on another level with his speed. And we can see it as soon as he gets the puck, everybody backs up and he creates his own space. But you're right. Like I don't think he absolutely dominated at any like lengthy time. Like you're right. He just put up points.
No.
Like you could argue that Celebrini was a little more clutch with the goal scoring too.
Yeah.
Like obviously that dried up in the gold medal game. And I'm sure he was frustrated with some of his shot placements there. But again, credit to Hellebuyck, constantly in the right position, right? Like constantly in the right position. Even Saros, right? They were pumping shots on Saros, and he was just squared up and ready to go. And so I think you're right. I think Hellebuyck was the MVP when you have a full tournament performance like that, and then to do that in the gold medal game, what he did, like, yeah, I think the most valuable player should probably be coming from the team that won. Generally.
Yeah. I mean, and that's there probably needs to be some changes to the way, because it happens at the World Juniors too. We've been to all the tournaments where they do this, and it's like, oh well, it would have been this guy if we had an extra period of, you say, well, one period shouldn't matter. Well, it's like, yeah, it matters if you win the gold medal.
Important period.
Like, it matters a big deal if you win the gold medal. So, I do want to talk about Celebrini. Obviously, I think of all the Canadian players, looked the most crushed of all of them. I mean, he was head down on the bench. He's young. He's 19. He had 2 great looks in the latter stages of the game. But let's put this into perspective, Cam. 10 points for Celebrini. Now, we did a Beyond Belief segment before the tournament, and we said 11 points. Could he? And this was right after the first game. Could he get 11 points, which is what Lindros got as an 18-year-old in his Olympics? And that was pre-NHL players. And I basically said, I was pretty confident no. You're gonna get the bye. You might not have as many games to be able to do it. Like, he got 10 points. He was 1 point shy of Lindros, most points ever by a teenager in an Olympics with NHL players.
Timo had the record there too, right? Yeah, with 11.
Yeah, and Timo, yeah. So like there were some legit dudes that he surpassed. And now you've got Macklin Celebrini with this heartbreak on his conscience here, which I think is dangerous for everyone. But he took those steps. Now, Nathan MacKinnon was repeatedly saying he's the best player in the world, Celebrini. He already is the best player in the world.
Second best, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Second best. He was saying, I think he's already the second best player. Yeah,
But he was like, he's gonna be the best player in the world, and I completely agree with that. You take a 19-year-old and you put him on that team, and you say, how would like any normal 19-year-old is a passenger, right? Just there I'm just along for the ride, guys. I don't want to. Macklin Celebrini doesn't have that bone in his body. He is superior in so many ways to his peers that it is now, like, think about the debates we were having, Celebrini versus Bedard and all those other things. Like, we don't need to have those. And really it's not fair to Connor anymore because he's a great player in his own right, and he doesn't need to be compared to Celebrini all the time to justify what his career is going to be. But my goodness, Macklin Celebrini is on another planet here, Cam.
He is now obviously tremendous player. Like his showing there was beyond his years and beyond what anyone could have reasonably expected from him. Now I'm not going to start anything here, I hope, but this was brought up to me. Here is Macklin Celebrini's competitions and when he was eliminated. Okay. U17s, he got a bronze for Canada. U18s, he got a bronze for Canada. USHL bounced in the semis. U20s bounced in the quarters. NCAA Nationals out in the semis. NCAA Conference lost in the finals. The Sharks haven't made the playoffs. World Championships, they're out in the quarters. Olympics, silver. Man, this kid has had a pretty terrific run of not being able to get a win, right? Like that is tough for such a skilled player, for like a dare I say generational talent. It's like he's having a hard go, and it's it's not too far off of McDavid. Yeah, McDavid's got the 4 nations, but otherwise we got to go back to like 2016 to see something that McDavid's won too, right? Like it's it just really, I think, emphasizes how much of a team sport this is, right? That you can be
Yes.
so good, and it's still, unless you're a goalie, which we've seen it before, right? A goalie can fully win a game, can fully win a series on their own. JS Giguère, right? Can win series on their own. But it's if you're a player, it's really difficult to take over a full series or a tournament like that and actually drive your team all the way.
Yeah. So, man, and that is that. Yeah, you're right. Like, and that's a lesson for the San Jose Sharks, right? Like, you better start building and building and building because he can't do it by himself. And, but yeah, I mean, in the end, like, I think Macklin's going to get his someday. You know, there's always that, and I think McDavid will eventually too. But if you are Connor McDavid and now you've become the MVP of multiple events your team did not win, that is a empty feeling. And at some point you do have to wonder, what do I do about, like, what can Connor do about that? You know, it is a team sport, but now you're just like, is it me? Like, it can't be, right? Like, I mean, I, yeah, it's this is it's a funny sport, Cam. Like, anything can
It is.
happen, bounces happen. There's lots of things that could happen, but in the end, here we are.
I think I know exactly
So
what he needs to do, right? Like, obviously, once his contract's up, he just goes and signs in San Jose, and then him and Celebrini get to play together there, and maybe they can do that together, knock off, chuck that monkey right off their back for the two of them. Hey, did I start
yeah,
something? Is that happening now? Yeah, that's the thing now.
yeah, I think so. Something like that. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
of yeah, just an incredible, like, you know, it is an incredible moment too, obviously, for USA Hockey getting the golds in both men's and women, and this is a long time coming. You look at the guys that made the big impacts in the game, and they came from all over the different developmental landscapes. Connor Hellebuyck was a North American League goalie, played in the UMass Lowell, not a marquee program, but
Hmm.
a program that took a chance on him and he stayed loyal to, and developed him into the best collegiate goalie I've seen. And there was also Jack Hughes, who was the golden child, who born in Florida, raised a lot of his childhood in Canada.
Toronto.
And yeah, and a lot of came through the national team program. Guys like Jacob Slavin playing such a significant role. Goat went through the USHL, Colorado College. Now, Colorado College, this is their first gold medalist, which is kind of crazy because they've had a
Huh.
historic program. Like, if you go back years and years and years, and they were such a critical piece of both Canada and USA. Like, they had a lot of players. So you got all these guys from all these different developmental landscapes, and you needed all of them. It wasn't just all national team development program guys, though, that they were the vast majority of players on the team. It wasn't all guys from the same background. So I think that was kind of neat too, that you had all the different paths kind of represented, including guys like JT Miller, who went NTDP, OHL, Vincent Trocheck, who went straight to the OHL. So lots of different things, and that was kind of cool. But beyond that too, there were a couple of other things I wanted to point out from these Olympics. Number one, Dalibor Dvorsky, most points by an NHL rookie in a tournament featuring NHL players. Juraj Slafkovsky being a superhero, which we talked about on our last pod. And Albert Smits getting significant ice time, showing a really good showing at the Olympics, playing with the confidence that we saw him play with at the World Juniors. So we're seeing those kinds of things happening. Also, Damian Clara, the Anaheim
Hmm.
Ducks prospect, who was the goalie for Italy in 2 games, 40 plus saves, gave his team a chance in
Yeah,
those
he's
games. I
good.
think we'll see him with the San Diego Gulls at the end of the season. So it was a really good showing for the young players in the NHL, and also the guys that are draft eligible, other prospects. I mean, like, this was a really good tournament for the young players that showed that they could hang with the best of the best.
Yeah, and I just think that speaks further to just how quickly these young players develop at the high end, right? Like, they're so poised and they're so mature and they're so ready for those moments. Like, they've been under the microscope for a long time, but also that sometimes that youthful exuberance can just rise to the occasion, right? And I think that we should look at that when we're building teams. And I know that a lot of these federations they have a lot of loyalty to players that have done it in the past for them. But you look at a guy like Drew Doughty, and I had this argument with one of my buddies, is that I love Drew Doughty. I think he's a culture carrier. I think that he was on that Team Canada team for a reason. In the dressing room, I think his on ice play was fine.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to be hung on him. But he made that 2010 team as a youngster, right? He was very, very young when he made that team. I think he was like 20, 21. And he was a bit of a surprise. He was on the way up. Well, it's like that spot, that maybe we could have found a home for Matthew Schaefer, right? Maybe you want to give those looks to those young guys too, right? To get them so that they're ready to go the next time. Because especially when a guy like Josh Morrissey goes down, all of a sudden you're like, boy, I wish I had a Matthew Schaefer. Boy, I wish I had an Evan Bouchard for some of these power plays, for some of these offensive zone starts, right? You don't have to. We saw it, right? Some teams sat their guys for periods and periods and games on end. It's like you can use them in situations that call for their skill set when you have 8 defenders. So it just, I think that hopefully that kind of burrows into the mind. And when you see what Celebrini just did, is that give the kids a chance, right? They're going to be able to rise to the occasion a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is remarkable how often we have been reminded that the youth should be served in these settings, because they will surprise you. Whatever bias you have against a player, like Matthew Schaefer was the one player that I thought about that I was like, if you find a spot for him, he might surprise you, and he probably earns more ice time as the tournament goes on. And now you've got another option in 3-on-3. You've got another option as a, like USA, when they got their forecheck established, it made things a little more difficult. But like players like him who are quick to the puck, can retrieve and exit quickly and can use their skating, those players can do a lot for you. So, there'll be a lot of second guessing and all those things, but in the end, it was the closest margin. Like the margins could not have been tighter in that game. And in the end, the bounces didn't go one team's way and they did for the other. And that's hockey. So that's what we ended up with. But Cam, the Olympics were happening, and there was a massive, massive moment in the NHL draft season that happened this weekend. So we're not far removed. We're recording on Monday, so we're not far removed from this. You remember Gavin McKenna? Remember that guy? The guy that, well, Gavin McKenna, he did something kind of big, Cam. He did something kind of big. So Penn State played Ohio State at home this weekend in Big Ten play. On night 1 of the series, Friday, McKenna had a goal and 7 assists for an 8-point game. I believe it's the first 8-point game in the NCAA since the 1980s.
Yeah,
an
decent
8-point game in the Big Ten Conference. And yes, Ohio State has struggled this year, but that is an 8-point game against a college opponent at the D1 level. 6 primary points, by the way, there, Cam. So not a lot of gimmies on that one. Next night, he had 2 points, including the overtime game winner, because apparently that's how games go. They won 11-4 the first night and then needed overtime on the second night, because that is Penn State hockey in a nutshell right there. But anyway, 10-point weekend. He now has 43 points. And as you pointed out, Cam, right up there with a scoring pace suddenly of who?
A little Mr. Macklin Celebrini. And guess what? With that 2 points that he just got, 43 and 28, Macklin had 43 and 28. Identical pace now. Now Celebrini also went banana pancakes down the back half of that season too.
He did.
So we'll see if Gav can keep this rolling. But yeah, suddenly a 10-point weekend will help.
It's crazy. He did the Conor McGregor celebration, which
sign me up for that. Sign me up for that.
Yeah. It was funny. Like, I don't want to be a stick in the mud about it. I don't want to be. But it was kind of like, come on, dude, you still have a pending court case, brother. Let's take the temperature down a notch. And instead he gets Conor McGregor retweeting his celebrations and all sorts of stuff. So just wild. So, but anyway, okay. So the scoring pace is back on track. That's coming off of a weekend where he had 1 point the weekend before, which was obviously the first weekend back after the whole legal situation. And, but what is this? Like, what do we make of this kid? Like, sometimes I just wonder, it's like he can be like, do you take him at his best? It's still, I think the debate that's going to be had is like, okay, well, that was an amazing weekend, but it was an historically amazing weekend. What do we do with that, Cam? Like, let's do it this way. How did you take that weekend?
Chris, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. I think again, it just further illustrates just how talented this player is. And I don't want to say mercurial, but it's like with some of these supremely talented offensive players that maybe leave a little something to be desired off puck and defensively, is that you're going to have to just chew on the bad every now and again to reap the delicious ambrosia of the good, right? Like it's just we've seen it in history so many times where guys will like, oh, you want to pull your hair out, and then they end up getting 4 primary points the next game, right? Like, and you're just like, and they drive you, and maybe they win a Hart Trophy, they win an Art Ross. Like it's he's not a perfect player, but he has, and we've never wavered from this. He is the most skilled player in this draft class, right? We have never wavered on that fact. The only reason it became a debate, and number one, is Ivar is having himself, and we can talk about him in a few minutes, himself just a historic season as well, right? So he moved that needle up. If it wasn't for Ivar's season, even with the struggles that Gavin had at school and maybe off ice, is that he'd still be consensus number one if it wasn't for what Ivar's doing. If Stenberg had 17 points in the SHL, as we have probably expected, it'd just still be like, yeah, this is Gavin's year. It's just maybe he's not generational like some people thought. He's just supremely, but it's a 10-point weekend just further shines a light on when this kid goes, he goes big. And I think we saw that in the West. We saw it in his playoff run. We saw it in the 55-game point streak, like whatever, right? We saw him at Team Canada when he was a draft -1, and he was their best player. He didn't point up, but he was their best player. He was their most dangerous player. So I have a question for you later on the show here that we'll get to, but what do I make of it? On top of the McGregor Selly, I loved it. I think that teams loved it. I honestly do. I spent some time, I was over in Vancouver for that WHL Top Prospects game, and this was before he went crazy. And I was talking to some scouts too, and like, they're loving the swagger, even though he had just the 1 point the weekend before, he popped like 16 shots on goal. Like there's signs, right? And especially coming back from the World Juniors before the off ice incident there. Honestly, I think he's re-solidified himself as a consensus, despite Stenberg having such a great year too. I think I love the personality. I love that he came out and said it. I was just going to show a little personality in that moment with Connor McGregor, Selly. He's been going through a lot of stuff, and why not? Why not? It's not like it's going to come into play in court or something like that. Like, just let it fly, man. You're having yourself one hell of a run. Enjoy it, because there's probably not been a ton of enjoyable stuff going on the last few weeks for him.
Yeah. Yeah. What a release in the end, right? Like a release of, hey, finally. And, he never had 8 points in a single WHL game. I think he topped out at 7.
Yeah.
So it's like,
probably had a few sevens.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, but you have to go back to the 80s for anything in college hockey. I mean, like, it's so hard to score in that league, and yet here he is putting up 8 points in a single game, and then 2 more the next day, and those are big moments. And I think that could very be a rallying weekend as we look at them, and really, for Gavin. Yeah, he's right back into the mix of the NCAA scoring race. 43 points in 28 games, as you said, 13 goals, 30 assists, among the top in assists this season. So crazy stuff. But you did mention Stenberg, and I did want to pause on him quick, because while Gavin McKenna is doing what he's doing, Stenberg is also still scoring goals. He is still having that historic scoring pace in the SHL. He just scored the other day, and I think that we've had what was his what was it? He had 3 goals or 4 goals in his last 6, right? So like an incredible
5 in his last 8. Yeah.
5 in his last 8. Yeah, like, I mean, this is a guy that is kind of still feeling it. He is now up to 32 points in 36 games, 11 goals. This is a young player here that I think has continued to say, "Don't forget about me." I saw that 8-point weekend. Don't you forget about me. Um, what do we make of Ivar as he just continues to impress the way that he has at the professional level?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously he was hovering around a point a game for a good stretch of
Yeah,
time there up into the late 20s. And now that's fallen just a hair, right? 32 and 36. But like we said, the goal scoring, right? He has 11 on the season, but he's got 5 in his last 8. That's a good sign. That I take
yeah,
that as, even though the total points is dipping, down to whatever 0.88 instead of 0.97, is that's positive. That is showing now he's not only just being able to facilitate at the SHL level, he's being able to finish at the SHL level, right? And I think that adds some more credence to the fact that 30 goal, 85-point upside, I think achievable at the NHL. Trailing just Daniel and Henrik Sedin now for the top draft eligible seasons ever. I think he's maybe just 2 points behind Daniel, and then Henrik's got a bit of a lead at maybe like 51, no, or 41 points, I should say.
yeah,
He's been good, right? And like I said before, is that he is the reason that there is even a debate at the top of this board. It's not so much Gavin not being great; it's that Ivar has been great. And I had some guy on the team side reach out to me and saying like the best place to pick this year is 1 and 32. And I was like, I don't know. I think 2. I think 2 is also a very good spot to be in because,
yeah,
either you get McKenna or you get Stenberg and you're feeling pretty darn good about yourself, right? Oh, we missed out on McKenna.
yeah.
If he goes 1, well, we got ourselves an Ivar Stenberg here, who I think is going to be a heck of a player. And you're right. He just keeps reminding people, don't forget about me over here in Sweden just because I'm not getting all the limelight.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, so he's only trailing Daniel and Henrik, as you mentioned, in terms of
Mm.
total points. His point per game pace is ahead of both of them.
Yep.
It's by a slight bit. Here are the players that he has recently surpassed in terms of the point total. So Elias Lindholm, Nicholas Backstrom, Leo Carlson, William Eklund, and then Hedman, Dahlin, guys like that. Mats Naslund. I always loved Mats
Mm-hmm.
Naslund just he's as the barometer of Swedish hockey for many years. and then it was like, oh, and then it's Forsberg and everybody else. So you look at those numbers and you look at those players that he passed up, and historical numbers and context, I think, is always valuable in the scouting evaluation of players, because yes, things change and leagues change, and it's easier to score in some eras than it is in others. But when you see a young player scoring in this era where there are so many great players in those leagues, it says a lot. It says an awful lot, and the discussions that are being had are going to continue to say an awful lot about that player as we continue to have, whatever draft debate is going to continue to exist after that. Um, Last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of the NHL draft, I wanted to ask you about your experience at the WHL Top Prospects. What did you see there? Who stood out? What are the things that we take away from that event, which is the last of the prospect showcases that we'll be paying attention to this year?
Yeah, I needed like a palate cleanser. I should have gone out and like rewatched one of my kids' U11 games after having those 3 OT quarterfinal matchups at the Olympics. Just
Yes.
just the
Yeah.
best hockey, the most dramatic hockey, just
I
like edge of your seat. And I'm just like, I was giddy. The heart was pumping the whole morning there. I'm watching one of the Finland Swiss game in the hotel gym, just on the treadmill, yelling at the TV. A bunch of strangers are looking at me like I care too much. Um, and then we go to that, and no disrespect to those, but a bit of a drop down in skill. And you throw a bunch
Well,
of kids together
yeah.
who've never played, right? It's a little sloppy. So it was as expected. It was a little sloppy. It looked like a couple players maybe were a little disinterested, a little bored to start the game. I'm going to say Carson Karls for the first 25 minutes, 30 minutes of that game, I thought he was bad. Like he took a couple
Mm,
dumb penalties. He wasn't moving his feet. He wasn't creating plays. I was like, what are we doing out here? Conversely, Daxon Rudolph looked great. Super mobile, creating, great defensively. And then Rudolph kept that going through the whole game. But then Carl's just decided, I guess I'll be the best player on the ice, and so he was. And so he grabbed 4 assists in the back half there. Yeah, I'm gonna put the blame hat on him. The dunce cap, maybe put him in the corner there for the OT winner that Rudolph scored against him, where it's just like complete blown coverage on that 3-on-3. But generally, it's like that was kind of a fun game to watch those two, the top 2 D in the West in that game because Ryan Lynn was still out. Unfortunately, it was at the LEC, his home rink too, so it's too bad he wasn't there for that. But they kind of went head to head, right? Rudolph and Carls went head to head to see who, and I think that Rudolph played the better overall game, but the flashes were much brighter for a kid like Carson Carls, like the one where he walked up to the top and then snapped a backhand cross ice feed for the one-time goal. And it's like, ooh, like where was that all game? Like it was an interesting game. I thought the Ruck twins were disappointing, maybe dare I say it. Nobody really blew the roof off that place. I'd say Carl's came close with part of his play. But yeah, it was just generally, it was the best part of it. I'd say was getting to talk with a whole bunch of people, right? I'd say all 32 teams had reps there, multiple reps. Some teams had like 4 or 5 guys. So it was well attended by NHL people, loads of agents, loads of college recruiters that I'm sure the West was just thrilled. We're all hanging around there. You see the Penn State jackets, the Michigan jackets, everybody's there. We're all glad-handed. And I'm like, ooh, who are we poaching next? So yes, it was a fun experience though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and we've now seen all 3 CHL leagues have had their own top prospects games. They've all been, I think they've all been pretty good in terms of like illuminating some opportunities for players. There are guys like Ryder Cali, who has been a rising prospect, had a really nice showing at the OHL one. The QMJHL Maddox Dagenet, I think, really showed, why a lot of teams really do like him. And, so it's giving those players that aren't maybe the top guys, the Carls and the Rudolphs and others that are, it gives them other opportunities, which I think is good. But I was going to ask you about that because that has been the thing that has stood out to me. I went to the Q and the O Top Prospects game, wasn't able to go to the WHL game, but here we see a lot of college recruiters are there. And the guys that we were talking about, Carls, Rudolph, Lynn, all those guys, those are the guys that I think everyone is after wanting to bring into their program. And they're not the only ones. And obviously, you have guys like Hurlburt who are already committed, so there's that too. But man,
who also was kind of disappointed.
It's so strange being in this era of that being a thing now.
It is for sure. And but again, I reiterate, I think it's great. I think it's great for the kids. I think it's good for the game in general too, right? Is that freedom of choice, opportunities elsewhere, I don't expect that we're ever going to see it just become a pure feeder league, the CHL for the NCAA, because some kids simply aren't studious, simply don't have the wherewithal or just the desire to go and have an education or and kind of live that student athlete lifestyle. So I still think that the CHL is going to maintain a lot of their good players, even at 18, 19, 20. And I think the NCAA is going to take a lot of the really good ones too. And it's going to make that a deeper league, and it's going to make the CHL a younger league. And I think that there's going to be room for both to succeed, and that it's still going to be viable for NHL teams' developmental model when they look at like, where do we want to draft from? Well, the NCAA is a good program to draft from. Like, these are good programs. The CHL still has that, that pro-like schedule. It's still been the traditional feeder league into the NHL as it has been forever. It's just going to be a little bit different moving forward.
Yeah. And the thing that I'll say too, Cam, is that there is a response from the CHL teams and leagues to compete and continue to build developmental opportunities for their players and increase, improving facilities. A lot of new rinks will probably be popping up here. Improving, the infrastructure. So that's a net benefit for this competition. Competition forces everybody to up their game. And if you want to keep players or keep them for as long as you can, that's where things are going to be. You've got to kind of put your money where your mouth is, and it's already expensive and everything else to run these teams. But again, that's going to be part of the cost of doing business is continuing to push the boundaries of developmental hockey. So, I think it's great. Like the other thing I believe we're getting an announcement soon that we'll have the the CHL USA Prospects Challenge will be back next year. And I hear it's not during American Thanksgiving week. So thank you everybody for doing that.
Where's it going to be?
So that'll be back, and I believe it's Quebec's turn. So we should see those hosts announced very shortly as well. Nice. So yeah. So, hey, Top Prospects Game, they give you an opportunity to see things and maybe not draw a ton of conclusions, but at least you get to see those players in that setting, and it's always interesting to do so. All right, Cam, let's turn the page here. Let's get to our regular segment. Beyond Belief is back, and we talked about how it was beyond belief that the Macklin Celebrini could hit 11 points last year, and we were in the end correct. However, he got really close. So let's make it easy here. I want to talk about Macklin Celebrini. Here's my first Beyond Belief, which is a statement where we read it and the other decides whether or not it's believable or beyond belief. And Cam, here's what I got. Macklin Celebrini is about to torture the rest of the NHL in a fit of revenge for Canada's Olympic loss.
I'm gonna start this off on a good foot here. Beyond belief. I'm gonna say beyond belief. Yeah. I think it might be difficult for some of these guys to come home and play, especially play on teams that maybe aren't juggernauts and aren't going to be welcoming back several Olympians into their lineup. I think that, as you know, he just spent time as a wing passenger, not passenger, but he wasn't driving the play,
He
right? Like
wasn't
that.
driving.
He wasn't driving, and he could have driven, and he did. He had some good rush, but like he was the guy that was like McDavid had the puck, right, or MacKinnon had the puck, or when it was Wilson on that top line, is that he was still waiting for McDavid to get him the puck in good areas, and so now he's going to have to go back there and be the guy doing all that heavy lifting, and I do think that there's going to be a slight hangover. I think that his season has been unbelievable. But I also think that he's gotten some pretty decent puck luck, and he's driven a lot of things at 5-on-4. So no, I'm going to say it's beyond belief. I think that his pace might slip just a tad coming back for the Olympics.
Yeah, and I think I think it really can go either way. I think that's such a good point. I didn't really, like the emotional letdown, and then you got to go back, and it's just, you're playing in games that don't necessarily matter. Other things like that. I do think that this is going to light a fire under Celebrini in a certain way. Maybe not necessarily this season, but for his career. Nothing has come easy for him, as you pointed out. Like there have not been easy moments in terms of what he's had faced a lot of losses. I mean, you go back like even to the USHL year, he got injured during the U18. He was injured all season, gets injured at the 18 Worlds, comes back, still goes and plays, and was really not able to do much. And the Chicago Steel end up getting bounced. And so like there's a lot of things that happen, and so he's been close. But yeah, I mean, I think you've maybe I've talked myself into agreeing with you that it won't be immediate, but I do think he's going to be a different player going forward.
Yeah, I can buy that long term for sure. And we should note that season in Chicago where he was battling injury all year, there just casually set a goal and point record for D-1 players ever in that level.
Just was the best player in the league,
right? No problem. The best player in the league, I would say that year. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I got one for you here. McKenna's historic weekend has re-solidified him as the consensus, the expected, the presumptive number 1 overall pick.
Yeah, I mean, let's keep it rolling here. I'm going to say it's beyond belief because I think that there's still enough doubt about what happened. What not what happened in terms of the off ice stuff, but just how his game is going. Now, this was a great reminder of him at his best, and saying like, this is a guy that can take over games. He can do all those things. And I think that ability is the separating factor between him and other players. That hasn't changed. That's not a new thing, I don't think, for a lot of people. I will say that there's probably more fuel to him being the number 1 than there would have been before that weekend. But he still has to finish. They still have to try to go on a run here. And I don't have a lot of faith that that's a team built for postseason success. So that is going to be the next stage here. So that's where. So I'm going to say beyond belief that he's consensus, but I will say that it was a tremendous reminder of the possibility that he brings to the table.
And I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to say it is believable. I'm going to say that the off ice incident that, quite frankly, I think has earned him respect among teams and scouts and executives. And then that reminder right? Not a passenger in that weekend, right? Like driving
No.
play, putting up the points, showing the swagger. I think he's just now. Let's see if he can hold it. Right, he doesn't have a ton of games left, like you said. Although I am not so secretly hoping that the Frozen Four features Michigan, Michigan State, Penn State, and Nodak. Give me that. So we go to Vegas next month or whatever that is. We get all sorts of great storylines, draft eligibles, high-end players, the Michigan connections, Penn State. Like that would be a dream setup for me. So I'm still hoping for that, but I, like you, am dubious that Penn State's going to have the juice for it. But I think he's done it. I think that he has re-solidified himself as the guy at number one, despite Ivar, what he's been doing this year too. Even though the pace has slipped just a bit, the goal scoring up. I think that Gavin McKenna he's back as the presumptive number one at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's interesting. Yeah. So I think it could go either way, but yes, I'm going to stick with mine, but yeah. So absolutely agreeing with, good takes over there, but I got something that I'm going to put you on here.
Here we go.
We're going to keep it with McKenna. Gavin McKenna will be back for his sophomore season at Penn State.
Beyond belief. If you asked me a month ago, I might have had a little more wiggle room in it. I think it is beyond belief. I think that he will have had his university experience in all the ups and downs and glory and darkness of it. He's going to end up having 50 points. I think he's done. I think a team will be like, let's get our mitts on him. Let's get him into our system. Let's bring him along at the NHL level.
It is beyond belief, and because he'll be drafted out of the NCAA, a team will have flexibility if things aren't going well, that they could potentially put him down in the AHL and let him flourish a little bit more. I don't know if that'll happen.
Yeah.
Teams seem to be reluctant to send guys down, even when sometimes it may be the right decision. But in the end, that's what I see. That's what I see for them. So, team, yeah, to me, he's probably has he done everything he can to prove that he's ready? No, but I also think that I agree with you. I think that the situation being what it is, and whatever NHL team wants him will want him in their system right away, at development camp, at rookie camp, at training camp, all those things, likely in the the opening night lineup. So I do think that the ship has sailed now on him returning.
No. Okay, last one. We'll move away from Gav here. I'm going to change the wording of this just to mess with you a little bit too. Daxon Rudolph is closer to being the first defenseman off the board than we really thought. That he is in that realm now with a Keaton Verhoff, with Chase Reed, and Carson Karls. 42 points in his last 31 games. I think he's been the best defender in the West now for a good little stretch. He's got the length. He's got the skating. He's still got room to physically develop. I think there's a lot more offense than I probably gave him credit for earlier in the year. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think that, to me, that is believable. I actually have kind of had Rudolph in that clump of defensemen. With I still think that Verhoff, that's the competition to me. Like Verhoff, Karls, Smits, those are the guys that he has to, and Chase Reed, of course. So those are the guys. And do I think he's going to be the first defenseman off the board? I do not, but I do think that he is put himself in that conversation. He has the offensive capability. I think that there's signs of the defensive capability. There is signs that he can be physical when he wants to be. There's all different things that I think Daxon Rudolph does. And I've talked to enough teams that have always kind of had him in that group as well. But he is a bit of a polarizing guy. I think there have been some conversations. Like, there are definitely teams that have all the time in the world for him, teams that don't. But in the end, I think that he has put himself in that conversation. And I mean, what is it? I think you wrote in the note there 42 points in 31 games, Cam. That's a lot.
Stretch.
That's an awful lot of points in a short amount of time for a defenseman.
Yeah. I brought this up because when I was in Vancouver for that game, I was talking to a scout and a team, and they said, they straight up told me their board right now: Chase Reed, Daxon Rudolph, Keaton Verhoff. That's their top 3D. And I was like, dang, he's past Keaton Verhoff. And, they had a lot of reasons for it. We got into him, physical runway, developmentally,
Yep.
the feet. And so I just thought that was really interesting because I've liked Daxon all year as well, but I thought I had a really firm grasp on what he was going to become. And I was like, this guy's going to be a really good second pair defenseman that's just going to be able to do a lot of things. He's going to be able to skate it out of trouble, make a first pass, maybe works a second power play unit, kill some penalties. I think there might be more there that meets the eye early on in the season. So yeah, I like it. I think it's believable.
Yeah, I think I've said it before. Like I think I think he could be Charlie McAvoy. Like I think he could be that level of defenseman, and
be good.
I think Charlie's going to be an overall better defender over the course of his career. But at the same time, I just see and Daxon. That's a guy he often mentions, as the player he's trying to emulate a little bit. But I think with more offense, like that's the other thing is like all of a sudden the offensive game has flourished. I will say though, the one thing I've asked around a little bit is do we feel like some of the point totals have been a little bit inflated in the dub this year relative to years past? And I think yes.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
and PA is a good team.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's on a really good team. Yeah. He's on a really good team. So,
but man, imagine he was Charlie Mack. Like he needs to add some more snarl because McAvoy, like that dude hits to hurt.
100%.
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a little bit more of that out of Rudolph.
Agreed. I think he has the capability. He certainly has the physical makeup for it, I think. So yeah. So let's see that. All right, Cam. I got to go back to the Olympics for the last thing. So we're going to our last segment here. It's you have to pick one. And I hate to do this to you. I hate to put you in this position. And by hate, I mean this is really enjoyable for me. Yeah. You have one game to win. Do you want Connor Hellebuyck or Connor McDavid? Which Connor do you choose to win one game? Mr. Cam Robinson.
What jerseys are they wearing? They're wearing natty jerseys?
Yeah, fine. Yeah, in the Olympics.
Because I don't think I'm picking Hellebuyck with a Jets jersey on. I don't think I'm doing that.
Fair.
Fair. And like, gosh, it's so hard to say Connor because McDavid because I know he got the OT winner in the Four Nations faceoff. And P.S. I thought that was going to be the greatest games that I'd ever seen. They still are live, but it seemed like they ratcheted it up a little bit even for the Olympics here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stick with McDavid. I'm going to stick with McDavid simply because I'm not going to probably hang my hat on a goaltender because it can be so dicey for you. But I mean, I said it earlier in the show is that a goalie can fully win a game and can fully win a season or a series for you. And so if it is one game and he's on his peak, then yeah, probably Hellebuyck's the right choice here. But I can't burn my passport just yet. Give me Connor McDavid, greatest player on the planet. Is that I'll push my chips in with the best player on the planet more times than not.
Okay, that's fair. My goalie better, I win. Your goalie better, you win.
Yeah,
my goalie better. So that's it. Like it really, in the end, that is what it came down to. And so 41 saves in the gold medal game, the greatest performance I've seen with my own eyes. Yeah, I mean, the save on Devon Toews is going to live forever, but my goalie is better. And to me, yeah, one of my great mentors in the sport, Tim Taylor, always used to say, you should call it effing goaltending instead of calling it hockey, because there are times where your goalie can win or lose you a game. And this was one time where USA's goalie and maybe some supernatural help allowed Team USA to get the gold medal. That was as you mentioned earlier too, Cam, how many players can erase a narrative with one game? Not many can.
Nuh-uh.
You've got to do it, like for McDavid, he's going to have to erase it over a potentially a 7-game series in the Stanley Cup final.
Has to win a cup.
Or it's crazy. It's crazy. But now here's Connor Hellebuyck. Guy can't win the big game. Just did.
And win the big game. He won it. He won it.
Every guy in that locker room knows. Every guy in that locker room knows that it's him. He won the gold medal. They don't give out, they could have just all sat back, let him get the gold medal and just, it's him. Yep. He's our representative.
Stuffy.
That's how it is. But luckily for them, they all get gold medals. And apparently the party is continuing in Miami. So they're going from Milan
Oh,
to Miami. Um,
good.
things are going to get weird. So they've already
Good.
gotten
That'll be
weird.
fun.
They've been really weird. It's a lot of weird stuff. But either way,
I saw I saw
um,
I saw an IG post with Brady and he had like 10 like little chocolate pies or something going on there, little chocolate cakes.
yeah,
Did you
the
see that
lava
picture?
cakes. Yeah,
He,
man.
the
Those
lava cakes,
apparently
he ate
were
the bowl of
the hit
chicken
of
pasta.
the Olympic cafeteria. And at about
Were they?
3 a.m., Brady was mashing some pasta and lava cakes with
Like a
Matthews.
dozen of
So
them, right?
um,
Good. That's a weird
yeah.
time. That's a
By
weird
the
time
way,
for sure.
weirdly, like I keep like apparently the US players are being granted additional time before coming back to their NHL teams. Like this thing is getting out of control. I mean, it's crazy. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. But Cam, we're gonna get back to our regularly scheduled programming here with a lot of prospect talk. We've got more guys, drafted guys to talk about as well, in addition to the NHL draft coming up. But tell us what's coming up on Elite Prospects coming out of the greatest hockey tournament we have ever seen in our lives.
Yeah, we gotta cleanse the palate. We gotta get an amuse bouche going on here or something. So we'll be
Yes,
getting
we do.
right back into the prospect world, get back into the scouting, filing reports, writing big articles. Got some trips coming up here. I did want to say one last thing about the Olympics here, and then we can never talk about it again. I absolutely loved all the Johnny Hockey stuff. Right. When we were at the
Oh,
Four Nations and they had his jersey in the stall when I was in the room with them, and I was like, oh, like shivers. And like the boys bringing it out when they're skating around, bringing the kids out for the picture. Like that was
yeah.
just warmed my heart. That was so wonderful, so classy. And, when you said maybe some supernatural powers going on there, that like, was this meant to be, right? Like, was this meant
Yeah.
to be for like the loss to that hockey community, to that family, to have that moment? Spectacular stuff. I couldn't say enough good things. For that alone, I'm glad it was the US.
Yeah. Yeah, Cam, I'm right there with you. I mean, like I'll be honest, I was super emotional yesterday. Like super emotional. That set me off to another degree.
Yeah.
Having started my career at USA Hockey, like knowing a lot of the people that were part of building that, and also like, knowing what that family is, experiencing, or understanding what that family is experiencing. And every step of the way, they have been just hugged collectively
Yeah.
by the hockey world. And that's us at our best. That's our
Yes.
community at our best. And there's plenty of things that aren't great, but that is us at our best, is that we rally around each other and they're teammates for life and beyond. And that's the thing that really struck me about that moment. So I'm glad you brought that up. There's so much more to come. We've got plenty to talk about as things go on, but I think that's a great way to leave it off here. Cam, it's been a blast. Following this tournament, we do need that palate cleanser. We'll get it. We'll get you guys back on track here, right here on Called Up. But man, let's go enjoy, bask in the glow of what that was, and then let's get right back to work, because there's plenty to do as we close out the 2025-2026 season. That is going to do it for today's episode of Called Up the Prospects podcast. For Cam Robinson, I'm Chris Peters. We'll catch you next time.